feel, I don't care about the study. I don't care about the facts. It's interesting how, you remember what we said before? That a lot of these feminists and a lot of these red pill dudes start sounding the same after some time?
Yep, the two extremes.
Yeah.
The two extremes are very close to...
Yep.
The two extremes are very close to each other.
I mean,
you motherfuckers are on the same side.
And to his credit, Hassan at the beginning said you guys are two sides of the same coin. And I don't disagree with him.
No.
Because remember when Myra was out there screaming?
Yeah.
I'm better than you niggas. All that shit. Isn't that the same kind of thing that the SJWs do when they see somebody and they start screaming at Jordan Peterson? Ah!
And whenever white men do that, it's like, oh yeah, he's doing that toxic, but you're doing the same thing.
Same thing.
Whenever a woman does some shit like that, you know, generalizing, you want to call her and put her in a box, but you're doing the same thing.
My perfume got discontinued. You know what that means? Yeah, that perfume that I spent so much time searching for the right fragrance is unavailable. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna go to a store, spend $130, $200, $250 on a perfume to try a perfume? Absolutely not. That's not what I'm gonna do. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go on this link below and click on it because it's gonna direct me to Scentbird. I wanna find another fragrance and I asked them to send me some fragrances. Today we have Mercedes-Benz, we have a book commodity, and Atlas. You just twist it and you spray it. And the only thing is, there's a lot of perfume in there. I could do this all day, all night long. Smells really good. That's my, oh boy, it smells good. You can either have a subscription monthly and they send you all the scent that you choose. You can stop whenever you want. And guess what? On your first month, you're gonna get 55% off your first month of subscription by clicking on the link below and using the promo code AP55. AP55 for 55% off. Thanks, Scentbird, and thank you very much for sponsoring this wonderful video.
In my personal experiences, all of the car crashes I've been involved in, all the times my car was hit, and all the negative experience I've had on the road, women were at fault. That is, now you can sit here and say the insurance claims say that. I never said the insurance claims don't say that. I'm saying that I am not comfortable with women driving because of my personal experience. Those are my personal experiences. You can drag up all the empirical evidence in the world you want to try and drag up.
No, that's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. That's akin to some woman saying, because 3 men have attacked me, all men are violent. That's nonsense. It's the same logic.
That's the truth, but
it doesn't mean it is the truth. We have to be able to take ourselves out of our own experience to look at things holistically, to understand that our experience does not define the experience for everyone, especially when we're coming out here and saying, men are like this, women are like this. If you're just using your own subjective experience to make all those statements true, then of course at some point we're going to look at you like you're crazy because it's like you have your own biases. If you grow up in the hood and you only around hood rats, you're like, well, every woman's a hood rat. No, just the women you encounter. If you grow up in a posh area and every woman is snobby, that's not to mean that every woman is snobby, just your experienced life. There's a difference between saying, oh, women in my neighborhood are snobby and saying women in general snobby. The same can be said for black people or white folks. Or that's how we come with these sweeping statements based off of nothing but our own personal biases. Anything you want to say?
yeah, you're a girl that says all men are garbage. That's you. That's you. All men are trapped. That's you. That's you. Because in their experience, when a girl says that, you want to hold her accountable. Nah, it's the people that you choose. Okay, that's you. You the same motherfucker. Same. But whatever.
Let's keep playing.
Certain things happen to you over and over and over and over and over again. You've come on here deciding you really want to stick up for the chicks and maybe, one of them will drive over to your house. It's cool. We've got better things to talk about.
I don't think look, let's be real. I don't think I need to be a male feminist to be able to attract women, okay? However, having said that, that was a funny implication.
All right, Lily, you go there.
Bro, you think I gotta suck on these hoes?
Hey, you think I get no pussy? I guess.
Hey man, did you not know? I used to make pickup videos. Have you seen that shit? Where he's making all kind of anti-trans jokes and all that shit? He said college was a good time for me. I was picking up bitches on Miami Strip.
We will never be able to arrive at a meaningful solution or a resolution to this conversation if we're both operating on personal anecdotes and hypotheticals. That is not how you can conduct an appropriate debate.
Good. So now you're saying the thing I just said. I have my own biases, my personal experiences, and I say them. Some people disagree and some people agree, and I don't care.
All right. Hey, okay. Hey, cut this shit off.
It's important. You want to know why it's important?
Hey.
Do you want to know why this is important?
Why is it important?
Because every single time these red pill dudes pretend that they operate on the truth, being outside of the matrix, being the logical and the consistent ones, you come to find out when pressed a little bit, they are oftentimes just as fragile and just as ego driven as the women that they claim to hate and want to take down. These so-called superior beings, as they like to put themselves as, are operating on the same mode of operation as the inferior beings, quote unquote, that they don't like. So I just think that's what's interesting to me. How can you coach someone if you aren't willing, if you're saying, I'm going to trust my ears and my eyes, right? How do you coach someone out of listening to their own ear and their own eyes and how they view the world? Meaning, let's say there's a virgin dude who says all women are whores. Well, you're telling him to come outside of their own personal biases, to get outside of their own experience, to learn something different.
Because to him, you're right and they're wrong. So it's not about everybody coming out of he's not just a superior human being to a woman. He's a superior human being to the people that he teach. And I'm just going to teach you to be a little bit closer to my level.
Which is interesting because you say everyone has their own truth, but it's like, you don't believe that. You don't believe that everyone's truths are equal because you go on Twitch to try to change people's minds and realize that their truth is wrong, that their paradigm is wrong, right? You call yourself quote unquote Morpheus and you're going to be, so that means that you think that your paradigm and your biases are correct. You get what I'm saying? So that's when you realize how flimsy a lot of this shit is.
And you think
I'm not asking you to ignore your own personal experiences. I'm simply asking you to look at the data.
So let's change the subject because you've just proven your point.
Okay, Andrew, do you believe? Well, you didn't really prove anything, but it's cool. Do you believe the Earth is flat, or do you believe the Earth is spherical, round?
2 years.
I'll get his headphones on.
Oh, he took his headphones off?
He gets very stressed sometimes, and
Yeah, it's cool. It's important. Sometimes you can't take the heat. Sometimes you can't take the heat, so you gotta get out of the kitchen a little bit. Andrew, do you believe the Earth is flat or round, spherical, globe?
Round.
Do you believe it's round, right? But when you walk outside, it feels like it's flat.
Brother, and
it looks flat, it feels flat, but you believe it's round. Why do you believe the Earth is round?
Because I have personal experience that would prove to me that the Earth is round.
Oh, you have personal experience. What happened? Did you go up to the fucking moon? Is that how you figured it out?
Exactly. I flew up into space and I looked down on Earth and I saw people.
He got him. He got him.
C'est dead. That's it dead. But it lasts even longer. Up to this point, it's done.
Yes.
All right, it's done. Because he's gonna resort to humor to discredit it's done. Just move on.
Okay,
you can't talk.
I just want to see that.
We have over 100,000 students making more than they invest each month. If they didn't make more than they invest, they wouldn't sign up. One of the most successful online educational platforms in history.
Are there multiple layers?
Learn how to make some money yourself. If you want to join and have more information, it's all on corporatedict.com. You can find out yourself. If you're too cheap to pay $50, then you're broke. Nobody gives a shit what you think anyway. You've ruined the stream. Everyone wants you out of it. So either change tune and get with the program and be fun, or keep sitting here and talking sarcastic and really slowly and repeating yourself and talking about how you only believe what you see on the internet because no one really gives a fuck and it's boring. So let's move on to something fun. Let's get the tempo up.
There you go. That's it.
You got him.
No, but that's it. It's boring. It's not fun. Good. Now we know what it's about. It's not about the truth. It's not about Morpheus and the Matrix.
No.
Nothing to do with that.
No.
Let's get fun. Which is cool. I'm not mad at it.
But at least we know what it is.
We know what it is. It's all entertainment. It's all smoke and mirrors and fun. So do your thing, man. At the end of the day, that's how I took his stuff. I don't take him seriously. I don't see him as this pariah or someone I want to emulate. Maybe you do, and that's cool. But you heard it from his own mouth. We're here for fun. So, anything else you want to say?
Oh, no. I was done a long time ago.
Thanks, Sandberg. You're going to get 55% off your first month of subscription by clicking on the link below and using the promo code AP55.
Highest charge here was trespassing.
That is, hold on, that is absolutely, okay, stop, hold on, stop. You're saying so many things that are incorrect. The January 6th riot was definitely, indisputably spurred on by Trump's propagating of the misinformation that the election was being stolen. That Pennsylvania change happened in 2019 with a Republican legislature. But when you said it the way that you said it, Sean, the implication is, oh my God, the Democrats must have changed this right before the election so that they could win. That's not true.
People were pissed off because Trump told them the election was stolen.
That's the real reason. reason.
through. You would go through.
Do
and
you think
would
that's the only reason why?
Stop.
Yes.
Yes, that is the only reason. You would go through and you would debunk the claims one by one, and people would just cope.
Who cares? It's so annoying. Oh my god.
How is that
I'm just saying.
cowardly?
Okay, so say it. So say it then. But you have nothing to prove what you're saying. It's all just like.
Why are they putting up cardboard around the windows? Why are they
People
ignoring?
are doxing the people counting the votes. This happened in Florida in 2000.
Why in Philly are they?
There's all,
pushing
dude.
the
I'm not gonna
ballot?
have an. It's always look. This is what I'm saying. You're gonna offer like 50 million random stories. All of these random stories were brought before federal judges, and if they had standing or any evidence, they were reviewed and then they were shot down.
Have you seen that JonTron's being canceled again today?
What do you do?
He went on. He just literally made a video with Internet Historian. He just talked to the guy.
Yeah.
And that's it.
People are like trying to cancel each other all the
It's-
time for all sorts of shit.
I know.
What did
fucking-
Internet Historian do?
Nothing. No one did anything.
I thought
But they're
JonTron was
screaming about
more
they're like, oh,
controversial.
JonTron's a fucking massive fucking racist, so we have to. No one can watch this fucking video, which is just a fucking funny, and it is very funny comedy video. And I was like, I said on Twitter, but I was like, it's fucking cute that you're
Aiden.
saying all this shit about JonTron. It's like, well, what
Aiden, you
the
gotta
things
get
that
off
John
Twitter.
said that were so cancelable. He said in relationship, in a context of talking to Destiny, who also has been canceled by the far left.
Well, wait a second. Didn't
So-
Destiny try to cancel JonTron though? I thought.
Hold on.
Cancel
Let's be
John.
clear. Not only did I not
Yeah.
try to cancel him, I explicitly
Exactly.
tweeted out when he was getting canceled that like, hey, I don't think it's a good idea to kick people because he got kicked off of some voice acting project. So no, I did not try to
Ukulele, yeah.
cancel.
You said that you tried to save him
Yes.
after
I
you,
literally
after you-
tweeted out, I think it's a bad idea to kick them off a project list. If you want to make people like other types of people more, the best thing to do is usually include them in more things and work with them, not try to kick them out of everything. I tweeted
Why
that
did they?
almost verbatim.
Why were they trying to kick him out of everything?
Because
though?
when
I'm
he talked to
curious.
me, he was saying
what happened?
He said some crazy shit in our conversation, and people got really
He did-
uncomfortable.
He did say some crazy shit, to be fair. So,
Right.
but still,
Yeah. I do remember that.
it
Yeah.
was
he
six,
did.
it was
remember it
6
too.
years ago.
I think you said
Destiny.
That was quite
What
an
was
event.
some of the crazy shit that he said? Why did you
Why
have
would you-
anything to
Don't
do with that?
I was trying to throw him lifelines. You can go back.
People with militias. to
No,
go out and fight
Destiny
rioters
really
is
did try to
crazy.
throw him lifelines.
There were
honestly.
times, like I was asking questions like, if all the Mexicans came, but they were like chill with our culture and stuff, you'd be cool with them, right? And he's like, well, maybe if they had like genetically assimilated. I was like, John,
No
what the
way.
fuck? Yes.
No.
I was like, John, what are you saying?
You're like, that was a softball. What are you doing? Please stop.
John's
John's
Persian,
Persian,
so
so
you can't trust him.
Jesus
Guy reviews like
You can always
full games jumping on.
It's always Sean saying the racist shit on the stream.
Now we
You
know
can
why
always
he
ca-
doesn't like nuance person. Okay.
You can always count on it.
But it's just some crazy ass, dumbass shit always going on Twitter.
So people
Yeah,
want to know
get off
what you
that
guys
shit.
think.
It's cancer.
Yeah.
Sitch, I mean, do you want to? I mean, I want to talk about January 6th, but it doesn't seem like anybody.
I'll talk
No,
about it.
let's
I'm
do
It
down.
doesn't seem like
We can talk
anybody
about
else.
January
does.
6th.
I'm down to talk about.
I mean, we
January
did.
6th.
I don't know you guys. Listen, and this for Destiny here, who thinks of us as anti-SJWs.
Only
We
when it
came
comes to
out-
Star Wars.
we did a talk. Destiny
Fair
was
enough.
on. Destiny was on, and I defended a phone call that Trump made in the context of the January 6 hearings, and I've come to regret defending Trump on that stream
Yeah, but
after the
let's
after the
put it this way.
January 6 hearings. Hey, Aiden, I'm in the middle of talking here. I'm
I'm
like
sorry.
saying something. Okay,
I'm sorry.
I have.
Did you just talk over a woman?
I'm
Wow.
sorry.
Yeah,
No,
I told her. I said,
She's
"Shut the
white,
fuck
so
up."
it's okay.
Tell me to shut the fuck up.
I wouldn't.
honestly.
I wouldn't tell one of you guys to shut the fuck up because I understand you all have Y chromosomes. And you know, and you know when to shut the fuck up.
I bet.
I'm sorry. Anyway,
Continue.
I am the resident sexist on the show. But anyway, so January 6 hearings happen, and now it's like a completely different context for that phone call, Destiny. So I'm curious if you've listened to any of the January 6 hearings or what your take. When you were on before, you were basically saying, you know, Trump is a fascist, the total SJW bubble line. So I guess
Based.
maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think Trump
Yeah,
was doing
based and
everything he
true.
could to hold on to power. That's like anything, like extra process or whatever, like outside of the
Right.
normal legal
Real
process.
quick, if you don't
Well,
mind.
I agree with that, but I think that he was doing it in the context of like legal things. And I still think he is doing it in the context of legal things, but also some things that are like probably immoral.
Yeah, but like
maybe
even in the
legal,
even
but-
in, even in the
Can I throw in really quickly? Can I throw in the claim that he grabbed the wheel of the fucking limo to like turn it around.
It wasn't
I mean,
it wasn't the Beast, even though the woman said it was the Beast. It was the SUV.
So I'm just saying.
Just
if
so
you throw in
listen,
that,
it's an important
I say
thing.
like to put that part into perspective. Those claims as well should be taken into consideration.
Yeah, we should. And here's the challenge. Here's the
claim,
challenge that I always give the Trumples, and they'll always like, ooh, they don't say shit about it. I don't give a fuck if somebody wants to contradict testimony in the media. If you want to go and contradict testimony under oath, you go give testimony under oath. Otherwise, fuck you. I don't care what people say about her lying or blah, blah, blah. If you want to go and give testimony, I'm pretty sure that the commission is still open to people coming in and doing it. So they've reached out to some people and they haven't wanted to. But if you want to contradict things said under
How could
oath.
you contradict that?
No, she's literally wrong about it being the Beast.
Yeah, sure. She
wasn't.
might have been wrong,
How
but
would
like
you be
there are
able to
people that are calling a lot of her testimony into question because they're like, oh, well, I don't trust it. And I think Aiden even just implied, like, well, if she was wrong about this, maybe she's lying about that, or maybe she's wrong about that. It could be the case, but I think it's really damaging to one side if they're not willing to go under oath and make these statements. Because you saw this, especially with Giuliani, the types of statements that people are willing to make to the media changes pretty significantly when it comes time to make those statements under oath. It seems like they get a lot more careful with their wording.
Well, she also said everything was like, I heard this from someone else, so it wasn't really testifying to things that she would have heard of. If it was a regular court of law, this would have all been hearsay.
I do want to be clear that I moved the entire nature of this conversation from the January 6th into this particular conversation about.
Yeah, right. And whether or not the credibility, one of the things that bothers me is a lot of people are using the credibility of this one witness to say nothing to see here. And I don't understand how that's plausible. Even if I throw out all of her testimony, we didn't even cover the day of her testimony. We covered the day of the testimony of the head of the DOJ that Trump tried to replace with like some EPA attorney. So
yeah, and then also,
have you covered this stuff?
I was there on January 6th. That was on at the Capitol. Yeah, the first guy I interviewed that day was the dude with the horns, QAnon. Shaman.
Really?
Holy
yeah.
Wow. So this is you caused him to storm the Capitol, is what you're saying.
It's all Nuance Bros' fault, clearly.
Yeah, clearly. It was so cold that day. I don't know how that dude was shirtless. Like, I was freezing. I literally had to go back to the hotel just to warm up before I went
filled with
back.
the warmth of Trump's truth and love.
People actually said that. They're like, the spirit of liberty burns bright in me, and that's how I stay warm
okay.
and stuff,
That's interesting.
So are you supporting Trump? Or
okay, yeah.
Are you?
Am I supporting Trump?
Sitch and I have a bet going for $500 whether or not Trump is going to run. It looks like
he's going to announce almost certainly like
he has to make it to a primary
year.
for our bet.
At this
it
point,
looks like I'm going to win that bet handily.
No, yeah, he's going to announce in a few months. We just don't know if it's going to be before the midterms or after. They're saying before, but I think it would make more sense to do so after.
After, I agree.
I guess
that makes sense to do so.
A better question would be: is there anyone in this call right now that thinks that Trump did nothing wrong regarding the election claims or anything that's come out regarding the January 6 hearings? That Trump was just in the right?
I'll tell you what I think.
Yeah, go ahead,
us,
Sean.
Tell us.
I think that asking Luke Skywalker about
kick him from the call. Kick him out of here.
Give us your real
no.
take,
We have some right-leaning people on right now. No,
This is
everyone's
his
just going to
real
throw
take.
Trump under the bus.
See, it's just like the under oath thing. They're a lot more loud about
Yeah.
Trump on Twitter than they are.
I think the book Lucky has it right that Trump essentially signaling against the vote by mail made Democrats vote more by mail, and that's why he lost the election. And he has nobody to blame but himself for that. And this whole like I'm not going to concede or whatever. It's like, dude, it's a wrap. Like all you're doing is damaging yourself and like giving them an excuse to ban you off all the things. I wasn't on board with the Farard thing, and I just. As for the hearing, I mean, it's still like the 685th most destructive riot, in the 2020-21 cycle. So,
That is true, but the riot isn't important because of the dollar amount to destruction. It was the idea that like the leader of the United States, yes, of course, it was that the leader of the United States spurred on people to go and riot there because he was fundamentally undermining our electoral process, which is pretty insane.
Well, and also the riot was in my mind, it was far less egregious than him trying to replace the head of the DOJ and have the DOJ lie and tell state governments to throw out their ballots based on the fact that he wanted the DOJ to say that they had found election fraud when they hadn't.
Sure, and he
To me,
turned on
that's far
Pence. He
worse.
turned on Pence for the same reason, right? He's done this
Yeah,
over and
exactly.
over
Yes,
again. He's turned on
exactly.
Cohen. He turned on Giuliani. He turns on everybody that isn't able to live up to his like idealistic
Well-
like dictator expectations.
Isn't there a word for a riot where you're trying to overthrow the government?
Fuck.
Does it begin with the letter I or the letter C?
I think, yeah.
Now, hang on.
Probably.
I want to be very clear about that, though.
Yes.
About the letter I and the letter C. Okay.
Hey, Mahler needs to dip out for a second. He's gonna go get some drinks. He'll be back in a sec.
He's gonna go rewatch some Star Wars clips. Make sure he
Yeah.
see how much he got
He'll be
destroyed.
back.
I think we can all be very like
Don't get too drunk.
honest. That was there an attempt at insurrection that happened on January 6th? Yeah, to some degree, there probably was. But the reality is that the vast majority of those people were just showing up to support Trump and didn't really understand what they were doing to the degree that they were doing it. So and we're talking about now 2 years, and this is legitimate, 2 years of people who have been held without charge. That is unconstitutional, and it's not fair.
Wait,
So
people have been
that-
held without charges?
You didn't know that?
No, I don't.
No, they're charged. They're just
charged,
not
yeah.
convicted.
They've probably been
charged,
charged.
they-
I don't think people are being held without charge.
Are they held without
Okay.
bail though? Is that the problem?
That could be the case, but it's
I misspoke. Yeah, they're being held without bail, but
Okay.
it's still it's ridiculous to be held for 2 years for this particular crime. And when the crime, and now I agree
Well, they
with you.
tried to commit a coup, an insurrection.
Yeah, it's
against
a pretty
the
big
United
deal,
States.
I would say.
No,
What do you
no,
expect?
no. The woman with the old
Unarmed
lady with
coup.
little
Nuance.
old lady with the little fucking American flag. Was she trying to commit a coup?
I don't think the
Did
old
they-
lady with the little flag are the types of people being held. I think it's like the oath breakers and the people that are like being charged with conspiracy to commit. I don't know if it's a coup, but other crimes of the Capitol. I think those are the ones that are being
Well-
charged and are being held awaiting trial. It's not just people that were like randomly trespassing and stuff.
The
Are
Q
we sure-
shaman
but-
guy, he's
hang on,
still
Are we
in,
sure? Are we sure about that though? Are we
he's in
positive
prison.
about that? That's the people who are all being held.
Well, if we're not, I mean, well, it's the U.S. justice system. You go and look up who's being charged with what crime. It's all public. No, hold on. The U.S. justice system is not fucked. You can go and look up who's being charged with what. It should all be public information, right?
Am I
No, I'm not
mistaken?
saying it's
I
not
thought
public information. I just think that it's ridiculous the way that people are being held, and it applies, by the way, to people who are being held under other positions as well, not just under this particular position.
Wait, why would it be ridiculous for somebody being
I was
held?
only joking about the insurrection.
If they've
thing.
been
Some
charged-
people might not know that.
Wait, why would it be insane if
I'm
people are
not
being
joking.
held?
Because people are being held for all kinds of crimes that are outside of this as well.
Wait, but this is literally how it works. If you get charged with a crime, then you are
For
put in
2
jail.
years.
I don't know what the
2 years.
average wait time is for a charge like this. I don't. Have they been denied bail?
The average is not 2 years.
Typically you're not denied bail for trespassing and what a lot of these people
Yeah,
end
but
up with.
are the people that are being charged? Is it just trespassing, or are these the more high-profile offenders that are being charged with other types of conspiracy?
Some of them are just trespassing charges.
I'm
yes.
sure there are higher charges, but isn't the whole
There are
point
higher
of without
charges, but-
bail supposed to be if you think the person is either
Well, It's a that's flight
going to
risk. supposedly
reoffend or they're a
unconstitutional, yeah.
flight risk?
Yeah.
And are any of these? I mean, first of all, I don't think any of these people are going to reoffend. They're not going to re-coup.
What are they going to do?
Is any of these people actual flightless, or is it just purely political? Fuck them, basically.
And again, remember that the highest charge here was trespassing.
That is, hold on, that is
that's not
absolutely, okay,
true.
stop, hold on, stop.
That's
You're saying
not
so many
true.
things that are
Is it
incorrect. That is absolutely not
incorrect,
true.
Destiny? No, I'm
That is-
sorry, if I'm wrong,
I think there have been, I
For
think
the
there
longest-
have already been convictions that are higher than trespassing at this point.
For
It's-
the
yeah.
longest time, the highest charges were low, but they did secure
Yeah.
indictments against the Oath Keepers, and I
Yeah.
think
Okay.
they just dropped some for the Proud Boys, like
Okay.
the founder or whatever.
Yeah.
So for a while, yeah, the charges weren't that high, but they actually did do the work and secure the indictments on higher charges.
Like, I think seditious conspiracy is like the highest one. I don't know what
Yeah.
penalty.
People
that
were
got.
charged with assault on a federal
correct.
officer.
Oh
with
yeah, those
dangerous
ones too.
weapons.
Oh wait, didn't somebody just get 2 people get convicted 2 years for pepper spraying officers? I think that conviction just happened within the
yeah,
past few
it-
days.
it- yes.
I would
Yeah.
say that it is interesting.
When they weren't convicted,
though,
but
if
for
nothing
sure.
else, okay, so you are correct, Destiny. Obviously, that there were higher charges, but what I find very curious is that these people have been held for, I would say, to be an extremely long time comparatively to other people who have been accused of similar sort of crimes, whatever they are.
And
Well,
not
wait,
Ray
hold on,
Epps.
real quick. Wait, hold
What
on, real
happened
quick.
to Ray Epps?
Wait.
What happened to the pipe bomber guy?
That's
No,
the
I mean,
worst
I-
conspiracy
if-
ever. Wait a
can I
minute.
finish-
It's really not.
Yeah,
It's really
hold on.
not the
Statement.
It
worst
is.
conspiracy.
Let me
But
finish
we'll
my
talk about
statement.
that after.
If I may finish my statement,
Yes.
real quick. that they're being held for a extraordinarily long period of time before seeing court. And I understand there's a lot of them, but they are not all being charged in the DC court. And then on top of that, the problem is that they are being charged with cases that really would have been dismissed in most other districts for certain.
I don't think any of this is true. I think that people have made a lot of general statements about this without knowing like any of the charges, without knowing who's being convicted for what, without knowing what any of the evidence is.
Well, I could be wrong.
Well, sure, I know, but like I'd be curious to see like what are some of these charges that are like completely unfair, or what are some of these charges? Like, I'm sure there are probably a few, but it seems like given the indictments and the convictions that have come out, it seems like they are working on building cases. It seems like there is a lot of investigations that are going on in the background, and it seems to be proceeding as you would expect it to. Like, I wouldn't expect this to be done in like 1 week or even 1 month, like depending on.
It's also not unusual to be
just
held.
Sean, are we gonna let's just forget about the people who've been in jail forever? Okay, we're talking about a United States president trying to do anything he can to hang on to power, which goes against the norm of a peaceful transfer of power. And we're sitting here talking for 25 minutes about how long the rando mob.
Well, that's because people that support Trump
were in jail.
Because people that support Trump want to do anything they can to get off that topic. They don't ever want to ever address. Like what they'll do is they'll say immediately, they'll be like, "Oh, it's not a big deal," or like, "Yeah, that was bad," and then they fix it on everything else.
I completely disagree. I mean, I completely agree with you, Destiny. But you are playing into this by continuing to go back and forth about how long these people have been in jail when it's completely kind of just.
Well, because the issue is anytime you get them in a conversation, people will they'll go immediately like, oh yeah, that was horrible, Trump shouldn't have done that. But then on Twitter, they never say that. They'll even defend him, and then they just fixate on like the smaller things. You can ask the question now, because I know there's probably a lot of people in here that would have defended the January 6th shit.
I don't want to have a conversation about how unfair it is that these people, I mean, it's unfair that these people were even there. Were there to do the kind of thing that they were incited to do.
We know that
legally protest? What?
Well, no, I think
inside the Capitol was illegally protesting. That's to be.
No, we're talking about earlier.
Nuance, bro. Is there some level of culpability for Trump? The one thing that I'm walking away from the January 6th hearings understanding is Trump had no evidence of any kind of fraud, and there was plenty of people who were giving him information about the election to show that there was no evidence. Trump could have signal boosted that information and avoided these people thinking that the election had been stolen, but he did the opposite. So, I mean, is there some culpability there in what Trump did?
What is different? I'm talking about the actions that day of Trump. Like, he didn't tell people to storm the Capitol. He said,
"Oh my God, it's always these."
Go to the Capitol. It was pre-planned, by the way. Like, that's why people were walking.
Maybe hold on. Let's one at a time, first of all, and maybe we should just change the subject.
No,
we should just. Let's talk about something else, okay?
No, wait. Nuance Pro, please. Can Nuance Pro please finish his statement, please?
Yeah, so it was already, like, there were flyers days before this all happened to say, like, oh, yeah, and then at this time, you know, after Trump's speech or whatever, we're going to walk, like, you know, to the Capitol, not storming the Capitol, but this was part of the schedule. And, but Trump, you know, I guess he got there late, or his speech went on longer than it usually does or whatever. So people started already walking to the Capitol before Trump even said, like, walk to the Capitol peacefully and stuff like that.
How many people there, though, believed that the election was stolen?
Yeah, I think the essence of Adam's question. I think the essence of Adam's question is, regardless of when it was scheduled or who planned it or what had happened or what Trump's direct involvement was, the January 6th riot was definitely, indisputably spurred on by Trump's propagating of the misinformation that the election was being stolen. And should there be accountability for that? That's what the essence of the question is.
You don't think there's any...
And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that being accountability for that. But then I also ask that there be accountability for the Democrat politicians.
Please, I do not do whataboutism on the show. I will kick you so fast. Okay? Any next person that does a whataboutism is out of here.
Wait, what about when Sitch does whataboutism? I'm sorry.
Sitch's name is on. Sitch's name is on the show.
I won't do it. I'm just saying. Okay.
I mean, the claims of the election being stolen, yeah, but on the claims of the election being stolen, like, you don't think there's a legitimate grievance of people who, when they see the election laws being changed or modified last minute in response to COVID and things like that in many other states, like, you don't think there's a legitimate, like, hey,
I
this
do.
seems a
No,
bit
no.
suspicious. All of a sudden, we have like an insane amount of like mail-in ballots, and that's not like a legitimate thing where people are like, hey, maybe there's.
We knew 6 months in
this
advance
is a
there would be an
little
insane amount of
shady.
mail-in ballots.
Yeah,
Everybody knew that.
This is
Literally everyone knew that.
This is always the thing. People
Yeah, but
always
that's
say like,
still a
what people will say
fairly
this.
last-minute change.
How do you square? No, wait. How do you square this away? People will say the last-minute mail-in ballots were insane. That like it was so obvious it was ringing. Blah 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 blah. Trump was talking about this 8 months in advance that this was going to happen. Bernie Sanders was literally predicting on air. Yeah, the election's probably going to change as the ballots roll in. Everybody knew. Every single person in the United States knew this was going to happen. Why are we pretending that we were so surprised on the night of the election?
Hang on, because
being
there was
surprised
no,
on the night of the being surprised on the night of the election is different from what Nuance Bro is saying. What he's saying, and I agree with, and I think Trump handled this strategically before the election poorly, is that we had a bunch of states that changed election laws to make them totally different from how they were done in 2016. Pennsylvania did violate their constitution. The court upheld it. So there were issues, but like the fraud claims, it depends if you're like, they changed the rules and I think that's unfair, but it happened how it happened, or like this guy stuffing ballots into the box and that's why Orange Man lost. Like I think those are two different things. One's a legitimate grievance and one is goofy.
Sean, do you know the backstory on that?
Yeah.
Sean, do you know the backstory on that? That the DOJ, Bob Barr, is it?
Yeah, Bob Barr or William Barr.
Right.
William Barr, yeah.
So William
and
Barr.
He has a Bob.
William Barr, before the election, told Trump that there was all of these election laws being changed due to COVID and that they needed to get attorneys in place to fight them. And he suggested
like a year before.
Yeah, he suggested to Trump that he should hire a bunch of attorneys to fight these laws ahead of time.
Wasn't a year before.
Right. But Trump has this bad habit of not paying attorneys. So he told him he has to put $30 million into an escrow account for attorney's fees. Otherwise, nobody's going to work on these cases. And Trump didn't want to put the $30 million into escrow.
Which is
they
stupid
had plenty
because
of money. Yeah, they had plenty of money. Yeah.
It was his campaign.
Also,
$30
I think
So don't cry about all the election changes and stuff. I mean, this is normal. This is
we're talking
happen.
about why the people were angry about it.
Hold on, but
wait.
Just on this one factual claim, okay? Because I agree there's a lot to look at, but people will take so many random things. The reason why people aren't mad aren't because laws are changing, aren't because it's because somebody's telling them that they need to be mad about a particular thing. So like for that Pennsylvania example, for instance, my understanding is that Pennsylvania change happened in 2019 with a Republican legislature. But when you said it the way that you said it, Sean, the implication is, oh my God, the Democrats must have changed this right before the election so that they could win. That's not true. And for a lot of these laws, a lot of these have been changing for a long time. The idea that it just happened because the Democrats are trying to flip the election is not true. And I don't think the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has actually ruled yet on whether or not they violated their constitution in regards to the universal mail-in ballot thing.
The legislature didn't make the change. It was a Republican legislature, but they couldn't get it passed, so they just did it through the executive branch in Pennsylvania.
Sure, but the pass was trying to be done through a legislature in 2019 before like the big mail-in ballot thing or the COVID shit or the election conspiracy was even a thing. So while you might be kind of sort of factually correct, the leading implication here is that Democrats are trying to change all the rules just so they could win the election, which is incredibly misleading.
This is also not what people were talking about right after the election. There were tons of different other claims about Benford's law and fucking ballot stuffing.
Oh my God, the Benford's law shit.
The Benford's law shit. Holy fuck! I was a data analyst at the time, and I was like going through and doing the math about how fucking stupid that shit was. Holy fuck, it'd make my fucking head explode. The bottom line is that people were pissed off because Trump told them the election was stolen.
That's the real reason.
You would go through.
Do you think that's the only reason why?
Stop.
Yes.
Yes, that is the only reason. You would go through and you would debunk the claims one by one, and people would just cope.
Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. You could knock down fucking 5 of their claims. They'd have 10 fucking more. The reason that people thought it was stolen is because Trump told them it was stolen. And there was nothing that you could do to attack any particular thing. What you're doing now is you're bringing up, okay, a lot of the 1,000 fucking crazy things people said about the election was stolen, there were a couple of them that weren't complete fucking horseshit. But that is not the focus of information at the time.
And even today, you still hear people talking about like sliding ballot box under a table, which is a reference to one video that when viewed in federal court, they'd already put the ballots on there in an earlier video. You still hear references to claims that have been debunked in federal courts with Republican judges.
There's also the guy.
Could I please explain why people thought that? Is because they were told for 4 years or 5 years at that point the 2016 election was stolen, right?
No, that's it. You're gone.
No.
Hold on.
No,
I'm gone.
no fucking whataboutism. That's a whataboutism.
No,
Holy
not a what.
shit.
No.
What about the
not a
Democrats?
whataboutism.
Okay, excuse me, because I
It is a
please let me
whatabout.
explain.
It is a
No, can I
whataboutism.
explain?
He's saying that
Can I
they
explain?
lost faith because of
Yes.
this other thing.
I don't think it's a
Thank you.
whataboutism. I think it's a
I
bullshit
wanna
claim, but it's
clear-
not a
I wanna-
whataboutism.
Like,
You've
I'd like
lost
to
your
explain
whataboutism, Judge
Can I
Carter.
please
gotta clear
fucking
something
explain
up.
what the fuck I wanted to say, which is that you created a perception in the American population that the American institutions were faulty, and therefore they could be stolen and that they could be hijacked by external forces.
That
and
is-
then you got confused.
That's
When
Wait, so wait, hold on, real quick. 'Cause very concise
That's a
answer.
ridiculous-
Very
that's a
concise answer.
ridiculous
Very
argument.
concise answer. It is true that Democrats have talked about stealing elections a lot, but it has never been at the ballot box. It's been through gerrymandering and voter ID laws. I have never heard credible Democrats talk about in the media constantly that the vote was rigged. The vote was rigged. Ballots were rigged. Russia rigged the election.
They talk about Russian interference.
We're talking about
They
Russian
talk
interference, but Republicans are the ones that always say, "Oh, you said Russia rigged the ballot." Nobody says that. They said that Trump worked with Russia to get either propaganda or that the Russians were influencing the election. Not that they were actually changing votes, which is the Trump claim.
No. It was a direct fucking claim in 2016 that Russians actually interfered in the vote, and I had to go in and go through the. Yes, it was. Destiny, yes, it was.
Were there politicians making that?
Or
claim
mainstream
just, like,
figure.
random
Nobody
people?
mainstream was saying this. That's just.
Yeah, I don't.
Maybe not, but I saw it in a whole bunch of mainstream fucking publications.
only
like the Washington
time I
Post.
remember
So
Democrats-
I mean, like I don't know. Is this something that I just did? I imagine this. The Washington Post didn't make these kind of.
I
statements?
remember because I follow hotly at the time I followed. There was one. There was literally
Democrats convinced the Republicans that the election was stolen, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I
There's
mean,
no-
like, if we look at the
there's no
behavior
way in hell.
afterwards, like, nobody was saying that, like, Trump rigged the election. Nobody is saying that, like, votes were changed. Hillary conceded literally that night. Like, the behavior
Yes.
just doesn't line up with if Democrats
What
thought the
did
election was
Hillary say
actually.
in 2020 though. She
Yeah, so
said
there's
that-
one quote that they'll always pull out where Hillary Clinton says that Trump is an illegitimate president. That's the one quote
No,
that you
that's
guys
not
will
what I'm
always.
talking about.
Oh, wait,
I'm
is it a
saying
different
the
one?
where, no, I'm talking about the one where she said to Joe Biden, "Do not concede under any." And then the lady's going like this. That's interviewing her. She said to not concede like under any circumstance.
Probably to not, yeah, but what is the context? It was probably don't concede under the fact that the ballots were still being counted because Trump was trying to claim that he won the election before it was over, which is a fair statement to say. And it's nowhere near, and at that one point, under any circumstance, you're talking about Hillary Clinton who conceded the night of the election when she was there. Like,
her mind probably changed after.
When did
These are
she say
very,
that?
very different.
When
These are
when
very
did she
different
say that? Was it in the middle of the controversy or was it like a month before the vote?
No, it was before. It was well before the election, if I remember correctly.
It was probably in regards to, because guess what? Everybody predicted it correctly. It was probably in regards to don't concede that very night because votes are going to come in and you know that Trump is going to try to claim that he won the election, which he did. He did try to claim that. There were
not just that.
He's still claiming that.
Yeah, true. Yeah, true, actually. True.
You know, but I don't think that I'm incorrect, that I'm misremembering this, and I know that because I made videos on it. I have the data on it somewhere in a hard drive in this hard drive that actually it's plugged into my computer if I wanted to go into detail about it, which that there were claims that you know that everything that happened. I know.
The claims.
May I just please just finish my statement, which is that there were absolutely claims that that Trump was trying to subvert the election, et cetera, and any claims of any kind of interference in the 2020 election were wrong. Now, there were all kinds of Russian hacking that happened.
Let's not go back to Russiagate, okay? I don't. It's like irrelevant.
I'm not trying to. I know it's irrelevant. My point is that it was a totally acceptable kind of position to have in 2016 to say that the Russians hacked the United States election.
This is
They didn't say that.
whataboutism.
Well, and
This is
also- and also, to be
whataboutism,
fair-
because you're deflecting. You're basically saying,
I'm deflecting?
I don't want to say anything bad about what Trump did because the Democrats did the exact same thing in 2016.
No,
Which
I'm
is
not
totally
deflecting.
whataboutism. It's totally deflection.
The only thing that's remotely comparable, and it was a more coherent strategy, was Al Gore in 2000. Like 2016 was people
Look, I
saying
don't-
this
I don't
I'm
condone
not doing
what happened
whataboutism.
in 2016. I
I
don't
got you.
condone Russiagate. I can be against both of these things at the same time.
But I do want to clear something up.
Easy.
I do want to clear something up. So I was wrong. It was a law passed in the state of Pennsylvania, but their constitution explicitly prevented that from being done. And it has been adjudicated as of January of this year that law was unconstitutional because it would require a constitutional amendment for no excuse absentee ballots. So let's clear that up. And number one. Number two, I agree that the stupid stories about the New Jersey mailman who threw out all these, it was thousands of pieces of mail and there were some ballots in there. And then people were like, it was thousands of ballots. No, it was 12 ballots. And it was a guy who didn't want to do his route. And it's the state of New Jersey where Trump isn't going to win anyway. So all those ridiculous stories definitely did contribute to it. And Trump was pushing all those stories. That's part of the reason why people got angry. And that's part of the reason why they ended up storming the Capitol. But also Ray Epps did it.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, we can move on.
I'm
It
being
doesn't
told
sound like
again,
we're
I don't
really
know
done.
who's correct here or if somebody has a source on this side, but I'm being told that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has still not decided on that. They haven't ruled. They haven't finished their adjudication on that.
What did the lower court say?
Well, I don't know, but if it's waiting for an appeal in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, then you kind of have to wait on them to see what the ultimate answer is now.
Well, the election's over, so.
Not in Trump's mind. He's still out there fighting on the front lines every day.
Can we address the Ray Epps thing really quick?
Sure.
Because this is to me, this is the dumbest conspiracy ever. You have a guy who was on the FBI's most wanted list for or not the most wanted, but on a January 6th FBI list for 6 months, and then they take him off the list. And so that's evidence that he's
No, that's
secretly an
not the
FBI
only
agent?
thing.
Well, what else is there?
He wasn't charged for anything, despite him, the day before January 6th, talking about we need to go into the Capitol. You see him doing the same thing on January 6th. He's going up. He's literally, the first time the gates are breached, he's right at the front of there, whispering in people's ears. And then right after he does that, boom, then the gates are
but if you
breached or whatever. And he's on that most wanted list. And why would he be most wanted and then never charged? And on top of that,
because
he's not charged. He's not charged.
I want to finish this point.
Okay.
One at a time.
Hold on, I want to finish this
One
point.
at a time.
I want to finish this
No
point.
intro, please.
He's the only January 6th defendant that's actually praised by members of the actual January 6th committee, Kinzinger, and then the New York Times writes a puff piece about him, and they don't even ask him any of the tough questions of have you ever actually been affiliated with federal law enforcement, or have you been an informant in any way?
Of course not.
This was such a it's why is he the only one that gets positive press coverage?
Let me
never charged.
This is what I think happened.
Let's hear the.
You have
the
a guy who, you have all this video of him. He seems like he's trying to incite people to riot. He's at the front of the gate when it gets breached. He's on the FBI list for 6 months before they finally take him down. But the FBI, before they took him down, they went and they talked with him. So obviously they talked to him and thought either A, this guy doesn't have any useful information, or we don't think there's enough to charge him, or B, he flipped on a bunch of people and gave them a lot of useful information, so they made a deal and didn't charge him. So
again, I think that second thing is very likely.
But that's not what
it's
people
also,
are saying.
Maybe
That's
he
not what
was an
people are saying. People are
informant
saying
to begin with.
he was an FBI agent from the beginning.
No, not
who went there to
necessarily
try
an
to
agent, but he
incite
could have
people
been
to go
wait
into
a
the
minute.
Capitol.
Informant
You don't think
and
it's possible
asset,
he's not an FBI informant after the fact?
No. He
after
could
the
totally
fact is
be
different.
he could totally flip on people. People at the time were saying that Ray Epps was some kind of government agent trying to incite people to riot because they really wanted to get the riot happening so that it would make Donald Trump look bad.
The conservative take now is that almost all of these conservative things are basically set up by FBI informants. That's the big take now. Conservatives saying almost every big thing is set up by
that's
FBI.
a lot different
Inciting
than
a
what I'm
riot.
saying specifically about
Well,
Ray
what are you
Epps.
saying? Well, what is your exact claimings then?
So I think it's suspicious that this guy who did all these things was on the most wanted list, never gets charged. All these other people get charged, and I think he was also affiliated with Oath Keepers and stuff. And we're just supposed to pretend okay, he's not an informant either before or after the fact. Also, I want to know, did you guys see what AOC said? She seems to be calling all this January 6th commission.
I sure did.
Into question as well, saying how come they're not investigating the police that open the doors and things like that?
Oh my God, we're still doing these same rumors?
No, that's AOC saying.
She said it publicly, just 2 days ago, Destiny. She said it.
I don't care what AOC said. Like, we've all seen the same videos. The idea that it was like the 9 police officers that were sitting in the Capitol, they let them in. It's like one of the most tired conspiracies.
Remember, she seems very convinced that the
First of all,
police
she
were
wasn't
against her.
She wasn't.
She wasn't. They were on the side of the January 6th.
Okay, good diversion. Good diversion.
Whatever you think, my dude. Like AOC, who
I like how also right now AOC is like your queen to appeal to like matter of fact, when in any other circumstance you would literally think she's a commie spy. Like you would never trust. But now when she's tweeted out dumb shit, now when she's tweeted out some dumm shit about the January 6th stuff, now it's like, oh my god.
Can I
think she threw her party under the bus like an idiot.
If you don't mind, if I can please explain, I think that because I do think that AOC is heavily politically polarized and politicized. So when she says something like that, we listen and we go, okay, if she's saying things that align with what we're saying,
right?
Not
gives
all
it
of us,
extra weight, but it
we
doesn't.
Go, okay, well that looks interesting to us, right?
Here's the problem.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Aiden. But here's the problem: is that AOC, and this comes into your debate with Lauren Southern about AOC and the January 6th stuff, is that AOC is a crazy person who, from the beginning, while January 6th is happening, she thought, based on nothing, that the guards were going to turn on her and give her over to the mob because she doesn't trust police or something. So it would make sense that that having that view, that she would then buy into the whole conspiracy.
She saw it in his eyes.
Wait, this would buy into the conspiracy. Why she would also pick up the, well, they must have let them into the Capitol. Because
I think,
she believes
sure,
that.
she might have, and she's also anti-police, but also the AOC claims were that on the day of, when nobody knows what the fuck is happening and tens of thousands of people are swarming in fucking DC, that she was worried that like some guy would be against her because she doesn't know if she can trust other like senators that are, because Ted Cruz and people like that were leading the charge against the election. You can argue that in retrospect it's a dumb claim, but at the heat of the moment.
Hold on, she made this claim about police
this is not about.
No, hold on. I'm talking about you making fun of her, saying she thought the police there were gonna like turn her over or whatever, right? I'm saying it's a
recounting. This is her recounting, and she's even talking.
She's recounting the feeling that she had at the time.
Okay, but she's also talking 2 days ago.
Sure, I understand that's a separate. That's a separate. Sure, that's a separate claim. What I'm saying is that like people making fun of her claims on the day.
It's tied together, obviously.
Okay.
We're getting distracted off the Ray Epps point.
Well,
if you're going to talk about people that were inciting the riot, that pre-planned to enter the Capitol, this guy's on video doing that. And if he became an informant after the fact, then where's the charge that got him to flip on other people? We don't have that. It seems weird that you're convicting a bunch of people that presumably he's testifying against of trespassing, but this guy was actually inciting a riot, which is actually a felony, and we have video evidence of him doing it the day before and the day of.
And the mainstream media is not curious, and to the degree that they do interact with him, it's puff pieces actually making him a sympathetic character. They don't do that for any other January 6er.
Wait, so you think there's also so you think there's coordination between the media and the legal system in terms of how to portray this guy?
That's never happened before. Destiny.
I hate. Okay, Adam, you got to find people with actual balls to defend their takes. I hate the whole like I'm just asking questions. I've never seen this before.
I'll give my.
It's actually like it is the most like it's the most frustrating.
They're impossible. You can't.
It's the most frustrating like cowardly shit in the world. It's so annoying. Oh my god.
How is that?
I'm just saying. Okay, so say it. So say it then. Do you believe that there is a conspiracy between the media and then like what the DOJ to portray certain people?
And I'll tell you exactly what they defend. They defend the media and the fucking government defended the fucking guy who killed Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah, I think that's probably what's happening.
Nuance. Can you turn your mic up a little bit?
Fucking CIA killed fucking MLK.
Aiden, I'm about to ask you to leave because you keep talking over everybody. Like we're all trying to take turns here, okay? That's kind of how live streaming works. So Nuance Bro, can you turn your mic up a little bit and what were you saying? I wanted to hear your response here. Okay.
No, I think I can turn it up higher. Hold on.
I'd be able to turn it up on Zoom, but
maybe.
I don't think I can.
No,
I have a response.
All right, how's the mic now?
Good.
Perfect. Wonderful.
Awesome. Cool. I maxed it out.
So please defend the
your balls.
Epstein take. Yeah.
The what?
The Epstein
Defend your
take.
balls.
Epstein.
You thought he did nothing wrong. What were you saying about it?
No. So when it comes to Ray Epps and like this New York Times puff piece or whatever, I don't think they would go out of their way to randomly make him a sympathetic figure when they haven't done that for any other January 6er. And then Adam Kinzinger comes out and defends him and all that stuff, and he's not charged, even despite being on the list and everything. Yeah, I think it's reasonable to assume that they probably know something about it, and they're probably coordinating with someone in the government, whether official or unofficial capacity. Like that I think it's not unreasonable to assume that, I think.
Well, I don't have a problem with any of that. And I don't have a problem with people asking questions about why Ray Epps wasn't charged. I only have a problem with the claim that was very strongly made. Maybe that's not your position, Nuance Bro. But I saw all across Twitter, which was that Ray Epps was a secret FBI agent, and that's why they didn't charge him. Which
Okay,
to me
you
is
see all
completely
kinds of crazy
ludicrous.
shit on Twitter.
I
That's
saw,
not
no, but it wasn't
indicative
just
of
like weirdos. This was
anything.
like a lot of the big right-wing accounts were making this claim, which to me is totally insane, because why the fuck would the FBI put an FBI agent on a please find this guy list for 6 fucking months? Are they that they're so competent that they can plan the January 6th riot, but they're so incompetent that they're going to out their own agent for the world to see?
Don't
Yeah,
they
that's
put
always like-
informants,
There's videos out there of him.
Has that never happened where an informant is put on like a list when you're gathering people?
No, but there's a difference between an informant who becomes an informant after he gets pressured and saying that this guy is an agent who's trying to incite people to riot.
I'm not endorsing the agent claim. I'm talking about like informants are way more likely.
Yeah, but
What is
do you
even
mean
the claim then?
Do you mean he's an informant before or after?
I don't know. It could be either. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Well, after is not interesting. Before is interesting.
Before is a lot more interesting.
Yeah, but
I feel like I feel like the biggest problem with all of these like hardcore conspiracy claims is that on one end, people are very quick to brush off anything related to Trump. People will look at like the Trump Flynn everything stuff and they'll go to bat like, well, there was definitely no conspiracy. No, you need absolute evidence. I need you to show me like text messages. I need to see a phone call. I need to see Putin's dick being sucked by Manafort or Cohen to believe in it. But then when it comes to the other side, it's like, well, they wrote an article showing one guy in a favorable light, and I actually think that means the government is working with the media to hide an FBI informant that incited the riot.
That's
with
one
absolutely,
thing. That's
with-
not the one
I know
thing I
it's the-
said. I
but
said
it's-
way
but
more
it's-
stuff.
It's gonna
other
be
than
like
that.
it's gonna be, but you have nothing to prove what you're saying. It's all just like, well, this is kind of weird and that's kind of weird. Therefore, I think there's
It's
actually
circumstantial evidence, sure.
It's not It doesn't even rise to
It's absolutely
circumstantial.
circumstantial.
Hold on,
Of course it
circumstantial
is.
evidence doesn't just mean that wow, there's a coincidence. Like if I say
It's
that like
not based on coincidence. It's based on circumstance.
Yeah, but
It's
you don't have
absolutely
any strong
circumstantial.
circumstances.
I'm not saying it's direct evidence. I'm saying it's circumstantial.
But it's not even circumstantial evidence because there's a 50 million different other things that could explain like what's going on here. And the idea that we would jump to like asserting a very high bar conspiracy because journalists, if we've learned
It's really
anything,
not a high
if
bar.
we've
Dude,
learned,
the journalists, like people in the media, especially mainstream media, they coordinate with the government all the time.
if we've learned
All the
anything
time.
about the media over the past fucking 5 years, it's that them having Twitter accounts means that they open their mouth about fucking everything. The idea that there'd be some concerted effort by a bunch of journalists to keep something under wraps when they can't keep their mouth shut about fucking anything is unbelievable. That editors, that people involved in publishing, that people that are writers and reporters, all of these people would come together to keep this shit quiet at no fucking
Dude,
shot.
are you pretending like
This
they didn't do
happens-
this, for example, during the Iraq War? Like they weren't doing favorable coverage for the administration? Like they weren't doing those weird things where they only like filmed like this little section to make it look like, oh, look at all these people, so happy, freedom, Saddam Hussein. Like there
For
was
the
no
Iraq War and
coordination
Abu
there.
Ghraib and like all these prisons, weren't we also getting unprecedented footage of like atrocities being committed by the U.S. government, and we only have those because of that same media that you're criticizing?
Sometimes, but you're saying they don't do the propaganda aspect. That's
If you
want
to be like an embedded reporter, I'm sure it's possible, but there's a huge difference between like I'm an embedded reporter and I'm going to try to give a little bit of favorable coverage versus blowing open huge stories of abuse, which the media did, versus you saying now that the media is just wholly in bed with the government and none of these reporters are going to say anything, and they're going to sell
wholly in
First
bed
of all-
and that they never do anything critical. It's just that, you know, both things can happen at the same time. You realize
I know, but you're asserting something that requires a great deal of coordination between a lot of
it
different
doesn't
par-
require. It
Not
doesn't
a great
require
deal at
It
all.
doesn't require almost any coordination. The conservatives are
Yeah, I think it
highlighting this
requires
guy.
almost none.
It is legitimately suspicious what is seen in the videos and what the FBI's response to it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody on the left acknowledges this guy. They'll say conspiracy theory, whatever. If you're in the media that's typically on that team, that is a signal to you that maybe there's nothing to the story, so you just ignore it.
Okay.
And then if you're a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit better connected, then you call Adam Schiff or any of these representatives that you have a contact with, and they set you up with an interview with the guy so you could talk to him. So then it's just one reporter that's working one connection to get one side of a story of what they believe to be is the wrong side of a right-wing conspiracy theory. So it doesn't have to be anything like that. Remember, the media didn't do any scrutiny of the Gretchen Whitmore plot, and there were informants and agents all over that thing, so much so that some of the guys beat it on an entrapment defense, and the other guys got a mistrial because the jury couldn't decide.
I think that there are times when you can say that, so you're saying you don't have to allege a conspiracy because it's possible that all of these people have individual incentives to act the way that they are anyway, which could be possible. But I find it so hard to believe that when so many of these come and go that are never talked about again when they end up not being true. And when this sort of hyper-critical lens is applied only to one side. For the majority of Republicans, the idea that Trump had any even concept in his mind of doing anything with Russia is unfathomable. But as soon as they spot like one or two coincidences between like media coverage of somebody and like an FBI informant, now they're like off to the fucking races. It makes me doubt the sincerity with which some of the people are alleging that there might be foul play, especially when they pick these up and they drop them off like laundry at the cleaners every single week when they hop from one conspiracy to the next. But
I mean, that's that's completely understandable, Destiny.
Aiden, I'm gonna ask you to go. Okay. Thanks for coming on, Aiden. I got 3 more people coming in. So I brought in Joe. Joe is a Trump supporter as well, and he's got a take on the F stuff. So take care.
Thanks for coming.
So first and foremost, congratulations on 200 episodes. It's great. I didn't know you knew so many big name people. I'm very, very impressed.
We know everybody. We are like the
impressed.
Illuminati. That's why we use the I as a symbol.
Sean Fitzgerald, the actual Justice Warrior, was one of my 2 main inspirations to actually start a channel. Wow. So I'm sitting here. I'm sitting here. I'm gonna not fanboy any more than that. But I'm just gonna tell you, I'm a big fan of your work.
That's nice. Thank you.
I'm a really big fan of your work, and I watched you from being like sort of like a stumbling, bumbling kind of like. I have a message and I want to get it out there to really being far more polished, and it's really, really impressive. I don't mean any. I'm not. There's no but to that. I'm really impressed with your work.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. With respect to Ray Epps, it's not, first and foremost, it's not just Ray Epps. Yeah, if there's actually a Revolver article which breaks down like half a dozen different people who were front and center, caught on tons of video, pushing the crowd, motivating the crowd to move forward, to go into the Capitol, to push their way in there, and all these people have been gone missing with respect to the committee's investigation or any talk about them by the media at all. There's actually an article from Revolver which breaks down piece by piece. And I know you'll say that Revolver is right-wing, media.
It's Darren Beatty's thing.
Yeah, but Darren Beatty's breakdown is exceptional. I mean, and if you think about it, assuming that there was a concerted effort by the DOJ or by nefarious forces at the upper echelons of government, it wouldn't be just a Ray Epps. There would be several different persons who would basically be put in place to help push the crowd towards breaching the Capitol for ultimately a political agenda here. And you have to ask yourself this. I mean, Destiny, just ask yourself this question. Assuming you're right about Ray Epps, why would they not have come forward and just said, hey, you know what? Ray Epps was someone who was, who would have been charged, but he flipped. He turned over and he went states, and that's why now he's not being charged. But instead of giving us that very simple answer, which a lot of people would be like, oh, okay, I understand why he's not charged. Instead of giving us, they're pretending that there was never anything about him at all. There's another guy who was on top. There was one guy with a loudspeaker. He had a megaphone standing on top of.
I don't know if you would ever reveal something like that. Does the FBI ever come out and make statements about who is or isn't an informant, or that seems like it would be an unprecedented action? No.
I don't know why that would be unprecedented. If he's testifying against people, I think people would see him coming into court and say, hey, this guy's testifying.
So I could be wrong on this, but I think in general, I think that those types of agencies are very cautious when it comes to them making statements about ongoing political matters. I know that it was a huge deal when Comey came out to make his statement of Hillary Clinton. There were a lot of people that thought that he was super out of line for making those statements, because traditionally those types of agencies almost have an unwritten rule that they don't want to be political players. That's not their job. So I don't know if it would be reasonable expectation for the FBI to step out. It's oh, just letting you guys know, here's our update on this particular person.
In this context, and then I understand what you're saying, but let's think about this for a second. In this context, where the only reason that you ever have any sort of congressional hearing is for a dog and pony show, because what comes out of a congressional hearing? Nothing. There's no indictment. There's no charges. There's nothing comes out of it. It's all about swaying the minds of the public.
Yeah, it's like a trial for the public, right? That's what you're essentially doing. When you have a trial, you're not asking questions where you're surprised to hear the answers. You just want to show the jury a particular thing. In this case, the juries of the American people. You have a congressional hearing to put a story out to them. Yeah, of course. There's nothing wrong with that.
Good information.
And that's all the more reason to explain to the people on the right, the people you're trying to convince, because you have people in your camp who already are in your camp and think Trump is evil and that this was all his fault. The people you're trying to convince are the people who think that Trump was innocent in all of this. So they're the ones who you would be trying to address their concerns and sway them, say, hey, look, you guys are blinded by the mega shyster who tricked you into thinking that he had nothing to do with this, and he's trying to pull at strings here and there to make you think like, oh, Ray Epps. But do you want to know why Ray Epps isn't here? Because he turned states. But there's never been any statement like that. And it's
I don't
not
think
just...
for the people that are believing in the Ray Epps stuff, I'm pretty sure those people are just gone. Those people are never being convinced because it's not about Ray Epps and it's not about any one individual thing. It's the idea that Trump sold them a story and they're going to believe that literally to the end of the fucking earth. Like there is no particular factoid. Now the goal is to give Democrats more ammunition, to galvanize them to vote against Trump, and maybe to sway some independents that are kind of on the wall about it. Because apparently there are people that are watching this where this is new information, having it all presented coherently at one particular time and place. And maybe there might be charges recommended to the DOJ after, but we're not sure about that.
All right. I'm gonna head out because it's crowded. Joe, I did subscribe to your channel. I'll be checking out your stuff. Adam and Sitch, congratulations on 200. You guys really deserve it. And,
Thank you, Sean.
I'll be attacking you on Twitter now.
You're amazing.
Thank you, Sean.
Amazing.
Bye-bye.
All right.
We have Michael Moreno is going to be joining too in a second. So, Joe, are you saying that there's no good information coming out of the January 6th hearings? I mean, I feel like the whole day with Trump trying to replace the head of the DOJ with an environmentalist attorney so that he could send out a letter saying that the election was all a fraud. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of evidence to back up that narrative.
Oh, I'll tell you this much. I think that Trump was looking to find anyone who would be sitting in his camp saying that he won. I definitely
right, and put that person in power regardless of whether or not it was a good idea. Like Trump's judgment was, Trump's judgment was abysmal.
Oh, let me point this out, okay? The reason I admire Trump is not because of his selection of anyone to any position ever, going all the way back to Omarosa, okay? He's terrible at picking people. He's terrible at picking
What's
people.
wrong with Omarosa?
She was a snake and just lazy.
Anyway.
But my point is, even if you look at the three justices he picked from the conservative position, he basically was 1 for 3 out of Gorsuch. Kavanaugh and Barrett are kind of useless. But he's never been great at picking people. It's his policies which are exceptional, especially when it comes to foreign policy. But let's put that aside for a second. When we're talking about Ray Epps, it's not just Ray Epps. Let me link you to an article here which talks about 6 different people who were like literally on a megaphone telling the crowd, move forward, move closer to the building. And these people had not been charged. We don't even know their names. And they've not been charged. And you would think, like, did all these people who were really the loudest voices and screaming, go forward, go into the Capitol, go all the way up to the gates, that none of them are remotely responsible for the fact that everything was breached ultimately? Because everything seems so neatly orchestrated. And I'll share the link with you. Because I only have like 20 minutes. I'm actually going down to Washington, D.C. right now because I'm going to be covering the Steve Bannon trial.
Sitch, really interesting. Hey, Sitch, did you get a good answer to what you wanted?
Well, no. I was moving off the Ray Epps thing for a second. It's just, I'm curious, Joe, do you find it persuasive that, the Bill Barr and then the Attorney General replaced him and basically everyone in Trump's administration except for Giuliani and Sidney Powell and Flynn, basically every other professional said that there was no evidence of election fraud and Trump just ignored them essentially. Is this persuasive to you at all? I don't know what your sense of any of this is.
When you say persuasive, you mean persuasive to say that he was acting in bad faith? It's persuasive that he was trying to
that they're either
have an insurrection? In what way do you think
it was wrong?
Well, let's do it step by step. Number one,
that it was wrong for Trump to try to do what he did based on nothing.
Yeah, that he was acting in bad faith. That Trump knew that there was no reason for him to think the election was stolen.
Well, no, I'm not going to say that. Trump has a narcissistic personality disorder. I don't know what he.
Well, no, but let's start from there. That he had no good reason to think that. It was just complete narcissism or bad faith or whatever. He had no reason to think the election was stolen.
No, I disagree with that.
What was his who with every single informant around?
Yeah,
how could you possibly think that?
I'll tell you why. It's very simple. Because there was such concerted efforts by the left to make sure that ballot counting was behind closed doors.
But this is every single one of these claims is lost in court, and Trump knows that.
There's credible evidence to the contrary. I mean, Trump has to be delusional.
Well, apparently this guy thinks that that's not the case.
No. When it comes to so the very first video that I made that was like a serious video. The very first video, I was addressing the 61 court cases that he lost. And I was talking about the politics involved in being a judge here. And what you have to realize is that if you are a judge, if I was a judge, as a guy who believes in Trump, if I was a judge, the last case I would ever want to have fall into my lap is a case involving that I have to look into overturning a state election. Because you spend your entire life trying to get into this position, and then by some random draw of chance, all of a sudden this case comes in before you.
Okay, so then in that case,
and the way you can get rid of it without actually analyzing anything is all of a sudden you start, instead of focusing on the what, when it comes to a court case, there's the who, there's the when, there's the where, which are all not focusing on whether something bad happened, but the when is it too early or is it too late, and it's moot. The who is this the right party? Is it the wrong party? The where is on the venue. There are all these bases which have nothing to do with whether or not there actually was shenanigans being played, and much more about I can just punt this away and not have to deal with this headache.
So
and out of the 60 cases, roughly 50 of them were punted on those bases.
Sure. So when he says punted, what he means is that the people filing either one brought insufficient evidence to even begin a proceeding, which could be the case, or two, that the people that were pressing charges didn't have the standing to do so. The idea that you're saying that judges the idea that you would say that judges are just not doing this because it's a hard case and it might be politically bad for them is absolutely conspiracy driven. You have no evidence of this. You can't possibly give a single. Let me finish. Hold on, you just ran it for like 20 minutes and a whole bunch of nothing. Okay, your entire premise here is that maybe they would have ruled on these cases in a different way, but because it was politically inconvenient to them, they're going to do an underhanded process to sweep them aside so that they don't have to make any hard rulings on anything. Can you give like a single shred of evidence pointing to that, or is it only conjecture?
Yeah, the fact that 10 minutes before the election they said it's too early and you can't raise it, and then 10 minutes after the election it says it's too late and you can't bring it up now. So when could you bring it up?
On the same exact case?
No, what I'm saying is,
or were there different cases where they brought up different things?
No, what I'm saying is you can't bring the same case before and afterwards. So that's what I'm saying is you're sitting here and it's like you read like a collective as far as saying there's 61 cases, and I don't know if you actually looked at the legal bases behind what they were saying, but they literally went from 10 minutes before the election saying it's not ripe yet, you don't know if it's to be a problem, until 10 minutes after something was reached where they said, oh. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'll concede that too. You're right. I didn't go through them. So give me one case that you feel like they did the 10 minutes before and 10 minutes after thing on. If you went through all 61 of them.
I haven't looked at this in like a year and a half.
Can you give me a general idea of it? You think there are single cases where they said you couldn't do it 10 minutes before, you couldn't do it 10 minutes after?
No, I can't.
Okay, I don't believe that this happened. I don't believe that.
I got a better question. So obviously, we talked about that Pennsylvania case or whatever that's still being litigated, right?
Oh my gosh! Don't get me started on Texas versus.
Yeah. So if the court ultimately rules that it wasn't, they weren't allowed to change what they did when it came to that law, would you say then that then what do? Do you throw out all the ballots that came in mail-in based on that law change? And would that change? Like,
you can't do anything.
Do you flip the state?
No,
I don't think you flip the state.
That's the problem.
These states take time to litigate. I mean, they could be fast-tracked in the case of something like Bush v. Gore, but the court was very. They don't want to take cases like that. They really don't. It's.
That might be true, but we've kind of moved away from my original question.
Well, wait, hold on. The original question is this point is really important. And I don't know if you guys realize you're doing this intentionally or not, but you're building these worlds where you can literally never be wrong. Like, if a court rules against you, it's because of a political reason. If they won't hear a case, it's because they're trying to avoid it. Like, there's always a reason why either the institution is against you or the anti-institution is against you, and there's just no way to ever know anything ever except for what some guy on, like, Tim Pool or Joe Rogan said. That's just, like, how do you know what anything is true or false? Like, how do you even begin to figure this out? Like, if it's gone so deep that like even the courts are throwing out cases, how do you know that any primary source you're reading hasn't already been doctored by like a CIA or NSA person? Like
see now you're trying. you're engaged in logical fallacy of just taking something to taking a point to ridiculous extreme.
First of all, taking a point to a ridiculous extreme is not a logical fallacy. Number one, I'm just testing your hypothesis, which is that all of the institutions are corrupt and will lie. And I'm showing you the fallacy of that train of thought, that if you think that any institution will lie to you...
ad absurdum.
But it's not absurd. You're literally giving me...
absurd.
You're giving me as a rule that a judge won't hear a case because it might be politically inconvenient to him. So now I can get rid of... So anytime a judge won't hear a case...
You just told something something's not a logical fallacy, and I just told you what it is. You said, "Well, I didn't go that far." So
it's not a. I'm literally demonstrating your thinking, which I believe to be fallacious.
That's not a fallacy. That's a thought experiment.
It's a common argument.
When you're literally saying that a judge is not going to hear a case because it's when you're saying that a case isn't going to be heard because it might be politically inconvenient, you've given me carte blanche.
No.
Okay.
That's not precisely what I said.
What did you precisely say?
What I precisely said is they have a lot of motivation to.
No, that's not what you're saying. Hold on, that's not what you're saying.
What I'm saying is
you're saying they did. Not they have motivation to do something. You're saying they did do that. Be honest.
Oh no, I definitely think that. I think that many of them did. Yeah.
Okay, so then don't say. I don't know why you said the other thing because it's more easy to defend. Well, you're not saying they could do it. You're saying they did do it. But now what I'm telling you is
you're
saying
take something that's more easy to defend. So you're ignoring the fact that I start with the basic premise, which is why is everything being blocked? Well, if you're acting above board, why is everything being blocked? Do you have any explanation for that at all?
Yeah, the easiest explanation is just for what the judges say. That a lot of them didn't have standing. A lot of them brought insufficient evidence for any of their charges.
No. I mean the ballot counting. Why was the ballot counting blocked? Why do you think that happened?
Why was the ballot counting changed in Pennsylvania?
No. I'm saying in Detroit. Why are they putting up cardboard around the windows? Why are they ignoring?
People are doxing the people counting the votes. This happened in Florida in 2000.
Why in Philly are they?
There's dude. I'm not gonna have any. It's always look. This is what I'm saying. You're gonna offer like 50 million random stories. All of these random stories were brought before federal judges, and if they had standing or any evidence, they were reviewed and then they were shot down. I can't answer if you're gonna. I can't tell you why every single YouTube video you saw that was proof of election fraud isn't proof of election fraud. Like I can't do that. I'm never gonna be able to do that.
You're getting very excited. I'm not trying to agitate you.
Courts turn away cases all the time, maybe because they don't believe, because it might be too controversial. They should turn it down because it's not the right time in the current environment to do so. I mean, Justice Breyer talks about this all the time when he looks back on the court's history when it came to ruling on things like interracial marriage. They're like, you know what, we actually think like this should probably be overturned, but this is not the right time, even though the logic is consistent with what we just ruled with. So they, delay taking a case on those grounds for like a decade or two.
These cases don't sound like that. These cases sound almost like procedural in nature. They don't sound like controversial, like they're asking you to rule on.
No, they are controversial. It literally deals with an election.
Hold on, wait, I'm not saying they're not.
No, Destiny, what do you think is more likely to cause like great civil unrest?
I'm not
to just let legislatures decide what they do and let the election process play out the way it looks like it's playing out, or having a court intervene and say, actually, what you did is unconstitutional. Actually, what happened here is illegal, and then potentially overturning the results of what just happened.
I'm not saying that it's not controversial. I'm saying that if it's like a procedural thing, like could you change a law? That's a fundamentally different type of controversy than am I going to make a decision about interracial marriage or gay marriage or abortion? It would be
with the outcome of an election. That's super controversial.
Okay, well, if you can show me that there are courts that are throwing away like procedural rulings because a judge doesn't want, that seems to be like, if you've given me that reason, then that's fine. But then in that case, then none of the court rulings for anything matter. And now I can believe.
By the way, it just deals with the law like every other case does, pretty much.
If we're talking about whether or not somebody could or couldn't change a law, it's in terms of like, did it adhere to their constitution? Is this not just like a procedural thing, or?
When you're talking about the court, like procedural, no, this deals with, it's statutory and constitutional with what we're dealing with in these cases. It's not strictly like a procedural.
Wait, we're getting
if I can bring it back for 1 second.
Hold on a second, Joe. We're getting a little too far in the weeds here, because to me, the broader question, which was the original question, is, I mean, we can't obviously read the judge's mind, to make these determinations about why they punted it if they didn't punt it for the stated reason. And I think if anyone, especially the president, is going to make that claim and use that to get rid of our peaceful transition of powers, or to claim that the election was fake, the president has to provide strong evidence for this claim that judges were being motivated for ulterior reasons. Okay. And what I'm asking is, if all the people around Trump who are investigating the fraud claims are saying there's nothing there, and all the people that are handling the court cases are either losing or saying we can't sue on these grounds, then what? Like, isn't it become Trump's responsibility then to just say, well, that's it, I guess I lost?
Well, and my point was this: we started this question even before we started analyzing cases as to whether or not we believe that Trump was acting in bad faith when he was saying that he felt that he had won the election, and whether that's really what the analysis is. It isn't even really whether or not what happened in this court case or that court case. It's just whether or not it's unreasonable for him to say, you know what, I got completely screwed here and I won the election. And whether
It's not a question of bad faith, though. He can be delusional, okay? The American people need to know that. So the January 6 hearings, I believe, are uncovering the depths of his delusion. And I think that's important.
Well, the reason I think the January 6th hearings are a joke is because they specifically chose people who were predetermined that we're going to basically say that Trump is evil. I'm saying with respect to Republicans,
I'm throwing all of those people away, and we've been covering the January 6 hearings and saying that the Democrats are reaching way too far, and they're putting up witnesses without credibility, and that completely undermines the witnesses that do have credibility. But to say that there's actually nothing there of value, I think is
I don't know which
completely immaterial.
Wait, by the way, is anybody here claiming that there was not a single instance of voter fraud in the 2020 election?
Well,
no,
I don't think
course
anyone.
Wait, that's not even the claim, though. The claim
I'm
is
just asking. I just want to make sure there's nobody making that claim.
Yeah.
Does anyone here
the
believe?
fairest, safest election.
Does anyone here believe?
Hold on, just one second. 1 second. We have 3 new participants I'd like to welcome to the show. Ben Burgess, thank you for coming on. You want to say a quick hello? Maybe pitch your channel?
Sure. So I host a YouTube show and podcast called Give Them an Argument. By the way, just for fun, Joe, reductio ad absurdum is when you're saying that, like, what you're saying is wrong because if it were right, this absurd consequence would be true. That has nothing to do with what you were saying that Steve was doing.
I think that's true for a second.
I would also be very curious about why that thing about no instances of voter fraud is a relevant question. Has there ever been an election where there were no instances of voter fraud?
Well, hold that for a moment. Let me introduce Michael Moreno. Michael Moreno has been on the show once before. We had a great conversation with him. He had some videos that blew up, so we invited him on. What's up, Michael?
Hey, it's going good. I feel like I'm with the big boys right now. A lot of cool faces. Destiny, Nuance Bro, big fans. So very cool to be here.
Big
mistake. Yeah, he's
everyone else, but no, I'm just kidding.
Michael's a great debater. We should have him on again, so we probably will in the future. But then Hunter Avalon, who's obviously been on the show before once. What's up, Hunter?
Hey. Nothing much. Thanks so much for having me on. Appreciate it.
You want to pitch your channel?
Yeah, just Hunter Avalon.
Okay,
anybody wants to watch.
So
reply to my tweet, Hunter. Come on.
Which tweet?
About the mRNA thing.
I was thinking, maybe we might get a chance to talk about that briefly while I'm here.
Oh, no. Well, let's not. I don't.
Are we doing back themes too? Sorry.
These guys have been.
Nuance Bro was saying that. What did you say?
Hold just 1 second. 1 second. Let's stick to January 6th. These guys have been sitting quietly for a long time. So, Ben, did you want to continue with your question about the election fraud?
Sure. I was just wondering why that was a relevant question, whether you can deny that there's a single instance anywhere in the entire country of voter fraud. I mean, I would assume that there are some in every election, but I mean, surely the question is whether it's remotely plausible to think that there were enough to change the outcome of the election, right?
I agree. I just wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page. I just wanted to make sure
we were just asking
someone
questions.
Claiming there was zero,
Has anyone made that claim? I haven't.
We were just asking questions. Okay.
Sometimes people say stupid things. So.
And yeah, Ben, your mic is a little low. I don't know if you can turn it up.
So January 6th, Sitch, did you get an answer to your?
No, but I don't think I will, so it's okay.
Sitch, go ahead, ask your question.
Well, no, it's just again, to me, like, if everyone around Trump that's credible, like I'm assuming you don't think Bill Barr is anti-Trump, right, Joe? Like, if he's saying Trump is unmoored from reality when it comes to election fraud claims, like where do we just give up? Where do we say, I guess Trump's wrong here?
So you're saying that because Bill Barr has made a determination, that means that it's
well, it seems like
not just Bill Barr.
According
it's
to
not
just Bill Barr, there's like a pretty much broad consensus at this point.
Yeah, like according to the people that we've learned about, unless there's some secret contingency of people in the Trump administration we don't know about, every single person said that they couldn't find any evidence of election fraud, and the only people that were pushing this was Rudy Giuliani, Flynn, and Sidney Powell.
Right, and frankly, I've never had much respect for Sidney Powell, to be honest with you. And,
a good way
and-
to check a good way to like rate their honesty also is try and see the difference between what they say when they're in front of the cameras on Fox News or whatever, as opposed to what they're saying in court.
Under
Because
oath.
yes. When they are actually under, or they have to tell the truth, right? Suddenly it's, well, there was no election fraud. We just thought, the people should have been able to be an inch closer to see the ballots counted. Like
it's not an inch closer.
They turn into like
It's a full-
gigantic pussies as soon as they get into.
It's not an inch closer. It's like they're like in a different time zone.
Yeah, I'm sure. I was
saying
being hyperbolic.
I understand you're being hyperbolic, but it's not a joke. When
Not
they're-
on
when they're
like 10
different
minutes
time zone.
before or 10 minutes after.
I mean,
no. What I'm saying is, my point is that they were in a different time zone. It's a legitimate complaint, and you're derisively implying that it was not a legitimate complaint, and by saying we need to be an inch closer, and I'm saying that's a false way of presenting the argument, and it's ignoring the seriousness of the claim.
I mean, I was being hyperbolic about that one.
I don't
thing.
mean.
The point of my argument was
I'm not looking to attack on a small.
No, I know. I'm
understand
just.
that.
I just want to reiterate the point of my argument there was to show that the difference between how they act in front of the cameras versus how they act in court. Suddenly they say, I believe a direct quote was, "We are not alleging voter fraud. We just, we wanted this to be looked at," or I don't remember.
I think that was
exactly what
Giuliani's direct quote once he was under oath, or once he was talking to a judge. Is right. I'm not alleging voter fraud. I just have.
Yeah,
affidavits
that was
of-
Giuliani.
yeah.
You're right.
In that particular venue, he was not alleging voter fraud. I'll tell you this much. This is what I think a lot of you are failing to realize. What happened was very, very bizarre. And if you can't admit that it at least looked shady.
What was bizarre?
Literally everything was being called months in advance.
hold-
Any reasonable person looked at it as like, nothing here seems shady. Everybody was predicting this for months. Even Trump was. That's why he was trying to get ahead of it. That's how predictable it was that it was one of the few things that even Trump predicted correctly, which was the mail-in voters.
And even if it looks shady, at some point you have to look at the evidence, Joe. Come on.
I understand that. What I'm saying is we're asking whether or not on January 6th, Trump had a reasonable perspective as far as saying that he felt he was screwed. And what I'm saying is,
Why are you asking that though? That's the big question, because Trump can
because
be
you're
wrong.
You're questioning his activity on January 6th.
I mean,
So
let's be real. Did you see the quote that recently came out? Trump was at some kind of a rally and he said, "Whenever I see a poll that I don't like, I just say it's fake news." I mean, he's pretty much admitted at this point that he just writes off shit when it doesn't line up with his worldview. So I don't even think on January 6th it's relevant whether or not he was under the perception that the election was stolen. Everybody around him, the smart people that he hired to be around him, were all saying the same thing. There is no election fraud. You need to get these people out of the Capitol. And he wasn't listening.
Even Sean Hannity was saying that kind of stuff, Joe. So I mean, if you got Sean Hannity telling you knock it off, I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah,
that's how you know you fucked up.
Okay. I don't want this. I don't want this to be like literally 6-on-1.
No, I'm fine.
Joe is center square. Get the bat.
I wish you had two more right now, so I feel like it's an even fight. Okay?
There you go. Joe came in, which was great because he wanted to articulate that position. Do you want to move on? I mean,
my point is this: if you're talking about January 6th, to just dismiss Ray Epps as being like some crazy conspiracy theory, and because you're basically giving a pass and saying I'm going to assume that everything there was kosher and that everything there was fine, and that you're trusting the January 6th committee that and you've admitted is there to promote a particular story. So
but I'm looking at
That's
the
not
facts,
really my
though.
argument, though.
No, but hold on a second. But you're all recognizing that they're biased and have a particular narrative in mind.
That doesn't
before
change
they walked
the
in
facts.
there. They're cherry picking what they're going to show the public and what they're not going to show the public. And this thing with Ray Epps is not the only thing.
Wait,
that's my point.
Can I? What
My
is it?
point
Wait, for you to accuse them of cherry picking, then there must have been some testimony that you feel like should have been entered that wasn't. What was it? Because my understanding, what they've said is that they've reached out to other people who claim otherwise, but they won't come and testify under oath. So what is being cherry picked?
We can't
We
can't know that. We can't know that if we don't see the full depositions and testimonies that were.
Wait, hold on. No, somebody can literally say publicly, I offered to go to this January 6th commission. They wouldn't take me. They wouldn't take my testimony. I haven't heard that happen with anybody.
I'm saying like
Steve Bannon.
Like Bill
Steve
Barr
Bannon,
had
they
like
wouldn't take
2
his
hours
testimony.
or 4 hours of testimony, and they show like 2 20-second clips. So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say they're not cherry picking things for their own political narrative. Obviously, they are. That's not my argument. My argument, first of all, my argument with Ray Epps was just that he's not a secret FBI agent. Okay, that was my only thing. He might have turned an informant, sure, who knows. But my argument with the January 6th thing is I don't care about Kinzinger or Cheney or any of the politicians up there. I'm only referring to the people who worked for Trump, who a lot of them still say they will vote for Trump if he runs again, who all said, I told Donald Trump that we couldn't find zero evidence of election fraud. And to me, that's pretty compelling evidence that he was completely irresponsible at the best with his election fraud claims.
Not to mention, if we're really going to start complaining about, if we're going to start complaining about cherry picking, I mean, how many people who are trying to push for the election fraud narrative were cherry picking? How many like 480p videos did we see getting shared around where they say, look, they had secret ballots in a box, and then upon finding out the full scope of the information, it was actually just
that is fair, but that is whataboutism. So Adam will get very mad.
So wait a second.
Oh, Adam, okay. Sorry.
You
Adam.
guys all believe Biden got 81 million votes? You guys all really believe that?
Yeah, of
That he got
course.
81 million?
Let's not get into that.
doesn't.
Of course,
Yes.
I believe that.
But
Like,
Joe, it doesn't matter.
It's a
if-
bizarre thing not to believe.
If the president
Wow.
doesn't have, this is what I think is interesting about the January 6th stuff. When he was making claims about election fraud, most of us assumed, well, he's the president, so he has access to information that the public doesn't have, that he's making these claims based off of. But from what we see so far, unless there's all this testimony that's being cherry picked out, it seems like he didn't have any information that was extra about the election being fraudulent. It was the opposite. All the people around him were saying
that's
they
not
couldn't
true.
find it.
That's not true, because if he did have evidence to that effect, there's no way they would put that in his hearing.
No, but why wouldn't
I'm saying
if
if
Rosen testify?
If there was 12 mountains of evidence that supported his position, you wouldn't know anything.
They
about
tried
it.
to move all that evidence to the courts, and none of it made it anywhere.
All the
Now you're fixating on what evidence was sufficient to overturn an election. That's different from saying evidence of fraud. Those are two different things, and I think these get very commonly conflated by the media and the public, and I think that's an intentional conflation.
Those are different things. But you just said, do you believe that Biden got all those votes? And given that all of the polling, right, predicted that he would actually get even more than that. Everybody had been saying for months that there was going to be this red mirage
not 81 million.
That they have. I mean, like, yes, there is absolutely no reason whatsoever to think that Trump had more, Biden less votes than that. I mean, like, what's your basis for that?
What was the poll in 2016?
First and foremost, yeah. I mean, forget about what the polling was in 2016. What was the polling in Florida?
2020.
In 2020. In 2020.
The
what was
polling in
Florida?
2020 was really off, actually. Like, look at
what
I think it was the numbers for like
in 2020?
Wisconsin, for example. Like, Trump
what's your-
outperformed that like in an insane amount.
And
But
what percentage
what's your basis for thinking that he outperformed it more than the vote count shows? Why do you think that?
Because I don't even understand how so many people voted. I don't understand how that. Because I'll tell you this much:
Really?
in countries where voting
Mail-in
is
ballots.
hold on a second. When countries where voting is mandatory and they make it easy as pie to get your vote, and they say you are required by law to vote, they can never cross a 90% threshold. So when you tell me that there are states that of their registered voters, they have like 94%, they have 94% voting, and you say, oh yeah, that totally makes sense.
Wait, getting
I'm sorry,
90%. Wait, getting 90% voter turnout in one county is way different than comparing that to an entire country.
To a state, to get an entire state to get over 90% is insane.
Wait, we had
Do you know
states
that
with
Ohio-
90%. We had states with 90% voter turnout.
Of the registry,
Which
of the
state was
registered
that?
voters, of the
Okay, hold on. Now you're adding more and more and more
No,
qualifications.
no,
So of the
no. That's what it always is. No one cares about a 2-year-old. No, who's
Wait, no,
talking
hold
about
on, wait.
2-year-olds?
But when you say
We're talking
registered, so
about
you're
registered
saying all the
voters.
vote, yeah. So all the registered voters, so all the people in the
Yeah.
state. So not people
And
that have
I'm
like
talking-
fallen.
And I'm talking in states where they don't even bother cleaning off the registry roll, and they still get such high numbers. And you're sitting here saying, "Oh yeah, everything's totally makes total sense." Do you know that Ohio had its highest turnout ever? Had its highest turnout ever in an election because that was a battleground state. That was a battleground state. You know what? They didn't crack 80.
Okay, I'm just curious,
Why-
and I
why is it
admit that
that
this could be
just
weird.
to-
So
sorry
I'm
to
just
cut in
looking.
here,
I'm
but
just looking. Is this actually
Why
true?
would
Because I'm
so
looking at
many
Ohio and I see like the turnout is 74% for November 3rd,
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah,
I have it
and
here
look
from
at
the
what the
stats.
Wait, that's not
Ohio
over
election.
90%.
No, he
That's
said
my
Ohio
point.
didn't crack 90.
There wasn't
Ohio-
a single state that passed 90%. The highest you had was Minnesota at 80%.
That's not true. That is definitely not true.
Do you want me to
I'm
send you
gonna
the
pull up
source?
numbers. I'll pull up numbers for you. I'm gonna pull up numbers.
This
Okay,
is
but
from
again,
stuff.
Well, but then, and then also, wait, this is really key. Hold on, just on this.
Look at
this is really key.
Wisconsin.
If you don't think that Biden pulled his numbers legitimately, Trump wasn't that far behind. Do you think that Trump pulled his numbers legitimately?
What do you mean pulled?
Like, did he like PULO? Did he get that many? Did Trump get as many votes as they say he got?
I don't know.
Wait, but hold on. You're absolutely certain that there's no way Biden could have gotten that many, but Trump had the second most votes in U.S. history.
What I'll tell you is let me ask you this. You look like you're in your 30s. How many elections have you followed?
As closely as this one, there's this one. Obviously, there was Bush. I think Gore was the hanging Chad one, right? Or was that Bush?
Really?
Gore?
You were old enough in Bush Gore? How old?
No, but my
experience. This
hold on,
has to be
chill.
like
my
fallacy.
my
Come on,
parents were hardcore. My mom is Cuban. The Elian Gonzalez shit happened, and my parents were super invested in the outcome of the next election and all of that shit. And then obviously there was the Obama one I followed because I was a big Ron Paul fan. But in terms of how closely I followed this election, never followed an election as close as I did this one. So if you're trying to make that point, you're absolutely right. I'm 33. I haven't followed anything as close as this one.
Okay, no, my point is this: when we look at popularity of a candidate who's running, normally that's reflected in the turnout. If people don't care about someone, they don't turn out. And that's what I'm saying. I know it was easier because mail-in voting. I know that they had the extended period of times. I understand all of that. And that definitely should bump up the numbers.
Sure,
100%, I agree with you on that.
Wait, hold on. Wait, can I just ask this? Wait, can I just ask this? Yeah, can I just ask this? Because you guys you always seem to acknowledge this and then you won't. Not you particularly. But people will say, like, everybody on the left had Trump derangement syndrome, Trump derangement syndrome. Why wouldn't Trump derangement syndrome send people to vote? I'm going to be honest with you. Okay?
No.
Biden, I don't give a fuck about. He's not a very exciting person, but I hated Trump. And you better fucking believe that I got my ballot and I voted just. But, like, so don't you think that enough people could have voted because they really didn't like Trump? Doesn't that make it a little bit more plausible?
Historically, that just doesn't work, though.
Yeah, but historically, Trump is like an ahistoric president in some ways.
That is true.
Okay. I mean, fine. You want to buy into that? That's possible.
Again, I'm just saying that like the type of president that could have the type of president that would get the second most votes in the history of all of elections is probably the type of president that would make people hate him so much that his opponent would get the most votes in all of history. That's not that hard to believe.
Can you explain to me? And because this is one thing that really bothered me, why voter turnout was so much higher in Wisconsin and Michigan than it was in Ohio? Why? Why was that? Why do you think that
I
is?
can't even. There could be a million reasons why. I don't know.
But they're both battleground
in
states.
Michigan, it was 73.9%, and then in Ohio, it was
much higher.
67.4%.
60. Yep, exactly.
I'm saying this. I'm pretty sure this is of all adults, like 18 and over, who are
registered
eligible
voters.
to vote.
I'm talking about registered.
I don't see those numbers
voter
anywhere.
turnout rate in the presidential election in the United States as of December 7th, 2020, by state.
I went through these numbers back in December, before even all the numbers have been totaled up.
Yeah, but usually they don't.
At that point,
they usually don't. They usually don't
Michigan was
report
way over
voter
85.
turnout by like percentage of registered voters. Usually,
I mean, in total, there was only a 66.7% voter turnout in all of the United States. I don't remember what you said before, Joe.
And I would imagine that in a battleground state, it's that much more likely to vote because I'm here in New Jersey. Everyone knew Biden was going to win New Jersey, so there's much less incentive to turn out in New Jersey because it's like you sort of feel like your vote doesn't count, and that's why I think a battleground state is a much fairer test. Because if you feel like your vote might
actually,
actually
New Jersey had a higher turnout than Michigan and Ohio, and Florida
as a percentage of their. Where are you getting these numbers from?
This is from Statista right now, but you can just look them up yourself. Yeah.
Nuance, bro. Have you turned on Joe too now? Are you?
I'm not turning. I'm just saying the numbers. That's all.
Oh, that's fine. I'm not.
Sometimes facts are against people.
I never want to mislead on any numbers. I'm not trying to. I don't feel like winning an argument does anything. That's not my agenda to win an argument. I'm simply looking to make sure that whenever something is being a situation is being broken down by both sides, that you actually
I have a question.
And one of the reasons I love you guys is because I think you guys do that. That's why I think
we try to. Before we move on from the January 6th stuff, I want to ask you a serious question, Joe.
Go for it.
I have a bet with PSA Sitch on whether or not Trump is going to run for re-election in 2020. And if
2024
or 2024 rather, but if Trump gets in the election and he does so terribly in the polls that he pulls out before Iowa, do you think PSA Stitch should still pay me the $500? I kind of feel like he should.
If he announces, you win the bet. Like
Yeah,
if he just announces.
Well, if
When
he
we
announces and takes it seriously, because an announcement could mean a few things. He could
No,
just say
you're-
on
no,
Twitter, like,
no,
I'm
no.
running.
No, like
Fall-
an announcement's an
you've all
official
fallen
thing. Like the reason why all these candidates are like, oh, I don't know if I want to announce it. Like there's like special filings and things you
Yeah,
can
that's
do
what I'm saying.
legally or whatever.
It has
so.
to be an actual announcement, not just like he tweets out, like, I think I'm going to run.
No,
right?
Adam.
Well, he
is-
can't tweet out.
It
It's
does,
literally
it does
banned.
sound like
Tricked you
everybody is
all.
saying he should
Only
pay me.
Socialist.
The
Fell into
only
Adam's trap,
two
okay.
things. The only two
Wait a
things.
minute. We made very clear rules for this bet. Okay, the rule was Trump has to make it to at least one primary election in the first state.
Ooh.
Okay,
The
that was
only
the rule.
thing. The only thing that would stop Adam from winning that is one of two things. Either he
Trump
concedes-
dies. Wait, I should still win.
His- a
Trump
health issue,
announces.
a health issue,
Oh.
a health issue that, and if a health issue became public, like a terrible health issue, like literally having a stroke or something like that, that's the only thing that I think would stop him. The only other thing that could stop him from winning the nomination would be DeSantis, and I think DeSantis is going to yield to him.
Well, that's why he wants to announce early.
Wait,
but
DeSantis
I-
has signaled that he's not. That he's.
I don't think-
he's saying fuck you. to
No,
Trump.
that stuff doesn't mean.
If
anything.
You don't
DeSantis
think
were to
so?
announce he's running, I think Trump would do it anyway. Do you think Trump gives a fuck about the Republican Party? I feel like Trump would just
No,
announce
yes,
that.
No, he doesn't.
If Trump
gonna announce
announces
anyway.
before DeSantis announces,
about
I
how
would,
he
I would
looks.
actually, I would actually go so far as to say he cares so little about it that if DeSantis got the nomination,
He would run
And-
independent.
absolutely.
Yep,
yeah.
absolutely he
think
would.
so?
Yeah, absolutely he would.
I don't think.
No.
You're talking to a
Independent.
guy that still thinks the election
I
was
don't
stolen.
think he would run
You're talking to a
independent.
guy that
Why
thinks
would-
invisible planes are
don't
actually invisible.
understand-
Of course.
Wait, do you guys want
I
to?
mean, what?
Would you guys take a bet on that?
Donald Trump cares about the Republican Party.
would
and
you guys
making
take a
sure
bet on
the
that?
Republican wins? Like, that doesn't sound like Trump.
You on the left have had 7 years to look at seven years now to watch Donald Trump, and you still don't.
Wait, would
understand
you
the
guys
way-
take a
the
bet
way
on
his
that?
mind
I'll bet you
works. You
$50.
have no clue how his
You
mind.
don't know
works.
his story.
I'll bet you $50
You
that
don't know
if
what he's been
DeSantis
through.
were to announce first and then Trump were to do it and lose the nomination process, that Trump would run independent. Yeah, I'd take that bet.
No, wait.
50
Why
bucks.
does it matter?
Oh
why
my
does it
God.
matter first
Oh my
or not? Like if
God.
they're
This means
both
I'm gonna
running,
win
they
either
both
way.
announced.
What I'm saying is
they're
Trump
both
would-
running.
Yeah, Trump is never standing aside for DeSantis, even if he wins the nomination. That's what I would bet on.
Trump is.
So you're saying he
Right.
officially runs independent
I think
and
he
tells
would.
people to vote for him?
I think he would.
Okay, wait.
so
Let's
we-
be clear
let's
here.
let's bet
Crazy.
on that.
All
We
right,
have
let's do it.
$50
$50
bet
bucks. Let's
between
do it.
Nuance Bro and
Crazy.
Destiny.
Let it be
This bet
recorded.
means-
You don't
This
nuance.
is recorded.
Nuance.
It-
You don't understand Trump at all. You don't understand him at
Wait,
all.
wait. So if Trump,
And I'll
I
tell you
don't-
right now, he's a narcissist.
So wait,
He's a-
wait,
he's-
wait, wait,
I
wait.
recognize
Joe,
as a
hold
Trump
on,
supporter.
We have to work out the rules.
Yeah,
of this bet.
Joe.
Okay.
1 second.
If,
All right.
So if Trump doesn't run, the bet's no. This is only if Trump runs and DeSantis runs.
Well, it's if Trump runs and